The author that we are going to analyze today is the man with the name Gus Van Sant. Gus Van Sant is known for his works as a director, producer, and writer. Gus Van Sant is a director who is capable of crafting both deeply unconventional independent films and mainstream crowd pleasers. Among his famous films are Finding Forrester, New York Film Critics Award for Best Films winner Milk, Palme d'Or winner Elephant, and Good Will Hunting. Before we go too far, let's learn what does the word author actually mean. Author is a French word which means author. The definition of an author is a filmmaker who has his or her own individual style over all elements of production that gives a film its personal and unique stamp. This brings us to the next topic, which is the author theory. The author theory, which was derived largely from Astruc's elucidation of the concept camera pen, holds that the director who oversees all audio and visual elements of the motion picture is more to be considered the author of the movie than the writer of the screenplay. It all started when groundbreaking director to be Francis Truffaut railed against the state of French cinema and pointed to the work of certain American directors as being a model for better work. So, what makes Gus Van Sant an author? Let's start with the concept and theme of his films. Gus Van Sant is highly known for directing films that explore the life of those living on society's outer fringes and delving and capturing the ins and outs of the gritty and damaged lives of the youth community. The concept of his works usually based on issues around us that don't get enough attention from the public. For instance, isolation, adolescent issues, homosexuality, and racism. This can clearly be seen in majority of his films. For example, low-key racism and casual racism were portrayed throughout Finding Forrester. Next, the film Elephant is about the chronicles of a shooting havoc involving adolescents at a suburban high school. Moving on, Gus Van Sant's Milk. The film is about Harvey Milk's struggles as an American gay activist who fought for gay rights. The next factor we'll be analyzing is Gus Van Sant's style of mise-en-shot. Gus Van Sant loves the 360-degree tracking shots. This shot is used to mark transitions, create suspense, add intensity or emotions to a scene, and much more. An example of this shot can be seen in Elephant. This is the scene where the teacher is talking to the students in the classroom. This technique gives the audience more detailed perspectives on how one is feeling by looking at the facial expressions of the characters. This technique was also used in the film Milk. This is the scene where James Franco, known as Scott Smith in the film, asking for the guests at his house to live. The next camera technique Gus Van Sant likes to apply is the classic slow motion. Anytime a filmmaker uses slow motion, they are choosing to drive attention to small details. For example, the scene where a student walking to a dog and the dog jump in the film Elephant. Other than that, the scene where two gays are kissing each other in front of a shop in award-winning film Milk. And how could we forget this fighting scene from Good Will Hunting where Matt Damon and his friends fight a gang who used to bully them as kids. The next element we'll be looking at is the mise-en-scène. The mise-en-scène we are going to highlight here is hair, makeup, and costume, or H&C. Mise-en-scène basically means what we see on screen in the film. Gus Van Sant doesn't really use any special H&C because Gus Van Sant applies realism in his films. It is meant to portray what a person in his or her situation, condition, profession would do in their daily lives. To prove this, we are going to show a few examples from his famous films. Firstly, in the film Milk, Harvey Milk wears a proper suit to portray his position in the society. Next, a man giving trendy 70s clothes and accessories. Other than that, you can see the people in Finding Forrester were dressed to portray two different conditions. Dark-skinned society with low income live in the ghetto while white people wear suits and fancy clothes to portray that they belong in the upper class. Lastly, Matt Damon as Will in the film Good Will Hunting wears a janitor uniform as he was working as a janitor at MIT that time. Moving on, let's talk about Gus Van Sant's film style. Film styles are recognizable film techniques used by filmmakers to give specific changes or value to their work. Gus Van Sant applies realism in his films. For example, Gus Van Sant's Finding Forrester shows the lives of different races living in different settings and how the majority treat the minority. On the other hand, the film Elephant was inspired by the real events of the 1999 Columbine High School killings. Next, Gus Van Sant's Milk portrays how one's sexual interest doesn't determine his or her credibility in the work field. The next element we are going to look at is the narrative structure. Gus Van Sant uses non-linear form technique in most of his films. It contains several scenes of essentially the same scenario with no interconnecting tissue between them besides the content of the scene. For example, in the film Milk, the timeline of the film kept on changing in a non-chronological order as in like it jumps from scene to scene from different timeline. While for the film Elephant, non-linear scenes can be seen in this picture. These are similar scenes happening in the perspective of three different characters. In conclusion, Gus Van Sant is an author that is different and unique from others because the sole purpose of his work is not to just earn a living. What he wants to achieve from his work is to educate and raise awareness to the public about issues around us that often go unnoticed or issues that don't get enough attention from the public. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching.